Hey sweet soul, thank you so much for coming to my treehouse to hang out with me this evening. If you're new here, my name is Abby and I'm a professional tarot reader. In today's video, I want to talk to you about Post Mortem Tarot Readings. Something that I've always wanted to do and have not had a whole lot of time to devote into a practice, into a service, is doing tarot readings on deceased persons, people who have already passed away. And the reason that I love this topic is because I do have this slight mediumistic tendency towards me, even as a tarot reader, but I definitely don't have the full proclivities of a medium. So for me, knowing about deceased persons, reading on a deceased life or a previous life, actually have to clarify my terms because I also do past life readings. So it's like on how do I classify who is a past life versus who is a deceased person? And sometimes I accidentally interchange the two, but I will aim to be clear here. Anyway, I find learning about people to be fascinating and to be interesting because that is the time and the opportunity in which all the guards are down, all of the faces, the shields, the traumas, the issues are put aside, and you can see that person and understand them exactly as they are instead of how they probably might want to have been, you know? So I like to dig into it in like a perspective of spirit, not their spirit, but spirit, deity, God, whoever is telling me about this. This person, this entity, this soul, and then sometimes I feel like I get little taps on the shoulder to fill in the details. Like, oh, they like to wear shirts. Tap, tap, it was a brown shirt with a button-up collar. Those little details I feel like comes from them, but I don't ever like to assume that just because I'm talking about them that they're gonna show up and even want to converse. Let me not be so presumptuous that everyone I call up is going to want to chat with me. I try not to be that presumptuous, but instead, I do feel like I have a wonderful relationship with my spirit team, with my guides, guardians, and ancestors on my end, and they like to chat with me. And I feel like maybe they have like a little Rolodex that they can like, okay, who is this you're looking at? I think that's this person. This is the information that we're gonna pull or we're gonna deliver or we're gonna download that might be useful for you in a constructive, non-invasive sort of way. So it is something that I like to do, and I've done it many a times for myself regarding like some of my ancestors that have passed away. So those are direct genealogy ancestry, in addition to other people's direct genealogy ancestry, and have had some wonderful conversations as they kind of look over the details and remember little nuances that I bring up or pull up about their particular loved one. And it's such a treat and a joy to kind of like hold their hand while they're revisiting those joyous and those problematic and those wonderful and those complicated memories, emotions, and feelings. So I love to hold people's hands while doing tarot and that kind of work. So let me talk a little bit about why I said all this. Why did this happen to begin with? So one of my skill sets as a psychic-ish person is that I feel energy off of the images of people. And I feel like I get a lot of information. I get a lot of intuitive information when I see their face. There's something about the face and reading that image, that whole image on a whole, and I feel like I'm getting a snapshot of a window of that particular person's life, that moment, that spirit. It's more than just the physical outlines of their shape, of their tactile shape, but it's also their energetic outline of who they are. It's their thoughts that's going through their mind. It's maybe something about their past that's still imprinted on them that I can smell, is kind of how I think about it. Sometimes you can see psyche issues that are going on, but all of that is within a picture, within a photo, and I get information off of that. I also sometimes get information off of the people who've owned the photo, but there's often a clear distinction between, no, this is the information I'm getting is from the person in the photo versus the person who owned the photo. So those are two like clear demarcations that I like to make whenever I'm working with images or working with people in that regard. So So, one of the things in my life is that I'm a reseller, and my wife and I are both resellers, and often, especially when we were not in COVID land, we would have these opportunities to visit these antique shops, and these antique shops had photo albums and photos and postcards of these people. And those people, those images called to me. They called to me, they called to me, called to me. So my wife, as a loving gift, bought me a Facebook Marketplace photo album of a leather album that is disintegrating, but it has some beautiful 1920s, maybe even earlier images in it. And it is such a treasure to even be able to hold. I feel like the steward of this little life that I have to honor and respect and cherish, and then I also want to get to know. So the whole point of this whole spiel is to show you what it looks like for me to look at a deceased person's life and kind of understand them a little bit more as who they are as a person. So I'm going to be turning the camera so that you can see my reading space. I'm going to pull card. I'm going to show you the image that I'm going to work with. I'm going to show you the photo album. I'm going to show you an image that I'm going to pull on the spot. And then we're going to shuffle cards and then get to know this person. If we have a name, great. If not, we might assign her, it'll be like our nickname for the moment. Sometimes I don't know if the names I give them are their name or not, unless I see, like, you know, yeah, that's their name on the back. But I feel like so long as I'm being respectful, giving them a nickname for the time being isn't disrespectful. So I try to, in all things, I try to come from a courteous point of view. I try to be courteous in all things. But yeah, let's go ahead and switch the camera around. I'm going to tilt you above my space, and you're going to be looking over my shoulder as I explore this work a little bit. So I'm super excited to show you. I'm super excited to show you. If you have any questions on my process, my thinking, my ideas, please feel free to leave a comment below so that you and I can have a conversation. I love doing this stuff. I love talking about this stuff. So please feel free to ask any questions that you have, and let's see what shows up. Bye. That I've decided to use, and I think we have a name for her too. But anywho, the person that I'm going to read on is a woman. It was either her. I like to start with women energy because I feel like dealing with the matriarchs or the ladies of the house is a nice way to kind of introduce myself to the family in a sense. So I think her name is Molly Lynn from what is written here. And I was going to introduce myself to her. So I'm going to pull this up so that you can see the person I'm talking to, and I'll probably insert a photo so that you can see this gorgeous woman, this beautiful soul, and so I can see and understand a little bit more of her and see maybe what she thought of herself. So let's just see what she... So I'm going to shuffle, and then we're going to start pulling cards. I'm going to lay them face down and then set the rest of the deck off to the side to ask clarifying questions if necessary. So I'm feeling my way around the situation. I'm already feeling a little bit from Molly or about Molly. And one of the things that I'm feeling right away is that she wouldn't have approved of this. Like, I feel like she's a woman who would have had her Bible. And this was probably curious, or maybe there was some curiosity, but it's definitely like, I've heard of that. I've been told that's a bad, terrible thing. We don't do that. This family will not be associated or known with that kind of thing. So the feeling that I'm getting is just this slight reservation, like looking, I wish you could see my face at the moment where I'm just kind of like peering over my nose, like, that's curious, but I'll have nothing to do with it kind of thing. So just a little curiosity. about it, about this, about using tarot cards, about metaphysics and that kind of topic. So I feel like she would have been a woman who would have had the Bible in hand, is the feeling that I get. Oh, okay. Justice. That's interesting to know about. So having a card that hops out in that kind of situation when we're talking about her, Justice, I feel like she probably, if I'm thinking about this card in relation to her, I'm wondering if, like, literally she's telling me that's a fair assessment, or that was, like, very, like, a balanced observation, in essence, or if she was that balanced observation, like, she saw spirituality, but she also grounded it in pragmatism, but I still feel like I have that Bible, like, that to me feels like a little bit of an anchor for her. So I'm gonna sit on this. I'm gonna pull this card off to the side and see if it shows up for us in another way, or there's more to it that comes out over time. So I'm gonna say that's my cue to go, and I will go ahead and start laying out cards face down, and we'll just go ahead and start there. Okay. So looking at the shadow card at the bottom of this deck, the first thing that I'm getting off of Molly is that she had a heart. See, the words heart of gold came up, but I wanted to say lion's heart. So she was a brave heart, kind of like Wizard of Oz style, like she had a heart. However, I still feel like heart of gold is more applicable, is the thing that I'm feeling. So I wouldn't be surprised if her family or her ancestors, the people that knew her, felt like she was a woman who had a heart of gold. So let's start off with the personality and see what shows up. King of Cups. I love this card for her because to me this is in relation to having a good solid handle on our emotions, being the master of our emotions. The emotions that we do have do not overrun us. So I think of her as like whatever waves showed up in her life, maybe she had her Bible as her anchor, as her rock, as her grounded source of faith that kept her steady and kept her as kind of like the head of her family or the neck of her family when there was probably literally a head of her family. So when it came to possessions and material security, which is our second card space, Knight of Cups. So I feel like she wasn't a super wealthy in the standards of like people that she may have known or heard about, like the Astors during that time, but she was a woman that had, I mean, obviously she could afford pictures. Pictures were not cheap back then, or had somebody that did. So I feel like she didn't have money herself, but was like surrounded by enough to be comfortable per that age. So it's like whatever debt showed up, they were easily resolved. There wasn't a whole lot of hardship. There probably wasn't any doing without. The house felt modest. It doesn't feel like super over the top opulent, but it felt like this family was okay. This is a little more than okay, but not like, there's that gauge of like, I would say middle class with this. Middle class without a whole lot of hardship. So I like that. Her communication with others is the Five of Pentacles. So I wonder how she communicated, and this is those moments where I have questions because I don't understand this card as a communication card. So I'm thinking about this card and I'm wondering if she thought that people weren't always kind to her, or when she communicated she wasn't always, the information didn't land very, like there's this something about it not being kind. So I need to clarify. I have questions. So let's shuffle. What do we know about that Five of Pentacles? Oops, first card hopped out. Moon, regarding communication. Okay, we'll start there. 2, 3. Okay, so the first thing that I'm getting with this is that she wasn't an overt communicator. So she probably held a lot to her chest that she probably, in this day and age especially, she should have spoken up. She could have spoken up about it, but she didn't. So I felt like she kept a lot to herself, especially when it came to being or making decisions or having opinions or being decisive. I feel like she rested a lot on her faith and her intuition, the guts, not necessarily psychic intuition, but more of she thought Jesus was talking to her. And that's the faith that she went with. That was the intuition. God told me this is XYZ and that's why we did it. But I don't feel like she actually spoke up a lot. She wasn't a big talker. Like even now, just feeling the energy off of her. Heart of Gold, love that to bits and pieces. Had a really good bank on her emotions. But she wasn't a big talker, or not a, by my standard, a clear talker. Like there was politeness and decorum and the manner in which you treated others that does not really apply today. So to me, that's where that is leaning. So let me put this under this card. Thank you. Let's see what else. Okay, card space number 4 is home and family life. Okay, so she loved her home. That's always good. With the Four of Wands, the Four of Wands is celebratory. It's a good mood. It's upbeat. It's there's probably smiles and children and not overt fun, because this doesn't feel like a fun time. But when family came around, it was good. It was warm. It was comforting. The feeling that I was getting was a little bit from that movie, Steel Magnolias, where like in the entrance where there's all these families that are here for the wedding, or all these people who are in this one house getting ready for this wedding, and there's children running by, there's Weezer coming up mad about the dog, there's this other person trying to handle it, there's this over here going on. So to me, this just feels like a woman in the midst of a busy, happy household. So I love that. I absolutely love that. So card space number 5 is about her love life and creativity. So I feel like she feels like a woman who was in the now. So I don't feel like she daydreamed a whole ton. Like, I feel like she looked at what was going on immediately ahead of her. She wasn't really worried about what was going to be going on 10 years from now. She was focused on her, I keep feeling needlepoint for her. So, you know, when the feeling is sitting properly and the whole thing is sitting like a lady is the feeling that I'm getting. I'm wondering if she wore a corset or a binder or anything that kind of held her ribs and back in place. Because the feeling is sitting with the needlepoint with a very straight back, kind of sometimes uncomfortably so, like maybe it dug into her lower back some way, but anyway, not uncomfortably so, but just like, you get used to being uncomfortable. It's like wearing a bra, you get used to being uncomfortable, and to the point that you just kind of stop noticing it anymore. But the whole point was the being cinched in very tightly and having the needle point and using that to make things for either the community or the church or the something. So her creativity, I feel like, was exercised there. 6. I do feel like, see, I just have this feeling come through of some stomach issues. So I'm wondering if she had anything going on in her, because we were just talking about not being a very direct speaker. So I'm wondering if that silencing, if that quiet voice or not voicing gave her stomach issues or stomach problems or problems in her midsection. So just an interesting feeling I had there. So card space number 6 is her work or day-to-day chores, essentially. 5 of Wands. 5 of Wands. So to me, the 5 of Wands, when it comes up, it's like, it's about bickering. It's about things not going directly according to plan. And so I want to know more. I want to know more about that. What do you want me to know about the 5 of Wands? Okay. 9 of Wands. The Hanged Man. The Ace of Cups. Okay. So not going too deep into this, but the feeling that I'm getting is that the work that she was doing, I felt like she was smarter than the work that she was doing. And so because whatever the work was medial, she felt burdened by it, but didn't really have a whole lot of choice about it. And so there's this feeling of needing to like put on the brave, the sweet face and be the good lady or the good thing. Like, it almost reminds me of how women who were highly educated or educated themselves would often get pigeonholed into these remedial tasks, having this brain that feels stifled or burdened by the weight of doing dishes every day kind of thing. So I feel like she was smarter or had more to offer than what was available to her. So doing the chores was definitely not something that she liked to do. Doing the medial tasks of home or navigating home or managing home or that kind of thing was definitely not something that she wanted to do. So I'm wondering, what did she want to do? That would be additional questions. Like, what was her passions then? Okay, let's put that down. All right, so card number 7 is relationships. I think about this in regards to romantic life or the connections that she has with the people closely to her, and I have the Fool. So I love that. That to me feels like she had this optimistic point of view when it came to her relationships, which is interesting, being that she had like a burden situation when it came to work, or the work stuff, or the chores around the house, and then she wasn't really a clear communicator, but then she has this aloofness regarding relationships. So I'm wondering, whoever her person was, or whoever her husband was, if that person just kind of swept her off her feet essentially, and just had a way of making her something else, making her laugh, making her enjoy life, making her a little lighter than she was innately due to these couple of things. So card space number 8 is like major changes in her life. So these are like pivotal moments, or pivotal moment in her life. And it's the Four of Cups. So for me, the Four of Cups often talks about complacency or avoidance even. Sometimes it can be a bit of depression. So I'm wondering what actually happened to her to get into that state of complacency. So let's see if we can ask what happened for that Four of Cups to show up. What happened for that Four of Cups to show up? I'm feeling an injury or an illness. I'm feeling like something physically happened to her, that she got kind of had to be held back in a way from doing the things that she actually wanted to do. The feeling that I got was first like an illness, kind of like how you get tuberculosis and you have tuberculosis for a long time, where you have the side effects of it for an extended period of time. And then the slight depression that ensues because of that. So I'm wondering if some of that might be an illness related, that she had a setback. I think that was considered like a setback. So while I'm feeling a bit of the illness, I'm also, this is the Seven of Wands along with the Knight of Swords and the Hierophant. So I think about Hierophant in regards to institutions. So to me, that very well could be medical if we actually want to go into it. There's other cards that I would look for if it was medical, but whatever it was, it came on fast. And it was like I was trying to defend against it, but it swooped in. It swooped in, it took over, and there was this time at this, I'm going to say hospital, or this location, or this space. And that would be so cool to understand, like, what kind of, I mean, we're going through a pandemic now. I wonder if Spanish flu was happening then. So I'll totally have to do, like, some research to understand in that era if that was something that she had to contend with, of being ill. Card space number 8. No, that was number 8. So number 9 is higher learning and beliefs. And this is the Seven of Swords. So I felt her being a woman of faith is kind of how I would think about it. But I'm wondering if there was a double edge to this, a woman of faithness, where she had her overt faith because that was what was expected of her, and then she had the internal faith of what she actually thought, because these are the things that made sense to her. I felt like she was a, what would you call it, like an educated, not like school educated, but more of like, I read a lot. So in being an avid reader, you would learn things, you would make opinions, you would become a little bit more traveled, well-versed if you read the newspaper. Like, I feel like she was more than what her station in life or lot in life maybe would have allowed. And that's kind of endearing in a way. It's kind of like a little tragic kind of love story. Kind of dig that. So card space number 10 is relationships and status. So I think about her relationships with others is the Four of Pentacles. Four of Pentacles, relationships with that. Give me a second. So just basically what I'm thinking in my head, what do you want me to know about the Four of Pentacles in relation to your relationships? And the things that I'm feeling is that she the words I'm getting is like people were conniving. So people were, I feel like, gossipy and talkative. So it was hard to trust or it was hard to talk to others because you'd always hear it back, or you'd hear these things or people would do things. So I'm wondering if she had like a catty bunch of women or what have you. And so she had the need to kind of play her cards close to the chest. And that very well could be the case, especially since she was an indirect speaker here. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there was rudeness or cattiness or from the other ladies that maybe she was around. And that's just an assumption. An assumption. A social life is our card space number 11, social life and friendships. So let's see what this is. So this is the Knight of Pentacles. So this is making sense for me regarding how she behaved with others. This is the slowest moving card in the deck. This to me is also the less likely to trust deck, or it's going to be card in the deck, because this card in particular is trying to observe, trying to watch, trying to not move fast regarding any decisions with other people or with any other ladies. Something that came to mind was ladies at the Rotary is kind of like the words that I heard. So I'm wondering if like that was her socialing, is like going to a little space like that, but these women were bleeding catty and she had a hard time with them, or sometimes had a hard time with them, or at least in the area that I'm looking at. So card space number 11 is like her dreams and fears. So what she thought about. So I love that. That's the Ace of Wands. And when I'm thinking about her in relation to her, like her dreams and fears, it feels like she wished she had a more active life than she actually had the opportunity to. Something that just came to mind is that something about her feet hurting. So I'm wondering if her shoes were either too small but they were stylish, or if she had an issue with her feet when she was like progressing to a point in her life. I'm feeling like bunion issues or like joint issues or joint pain in the feet, so her feet hurting. And I'm wondering if that's why she wasn't able to be as active as she necessarily wanted to be. But that's an interesting way to kind of like, oh, you wanted to be more active. I love that. I love that. So card space number 13 is basically just kind of like the summation of her overall personality. Ace of Pentacles. So to me, this is just doubling up on that heart of gold that we felt earlier. She feels like a generous person. She felt like a kind person. It feels like she had a heart of gold. It feels like maybe she had some people that took advantage of her kindness, and some bitches that just basically need to be choked out. That corset though, I feel like the binding of the corset and my feet hurting. So it's like, you wanted to be more active. You wanted to do more things, but you really didn't like the chores at home, and communication was a thing. Like, you're not able to quite speak your mind or say the things that you necessarily wanted to. But interesting. Very, very interesting. Now, I have never done this question before when it came to post-mortem readings, but I also have no way to verify that this occurred. I want to know how she passed. So I'm going to see if I can kind of decipher that a little bit to see if I can get there. I don't know if I will get there, but I'm going to see if I can get there, if she does not mind telling me. So let me shuffle for a little bit. Okay. So in shuffling the cards and asking her in my mind if she would like to tell me how she passed, some of the things that I'm feeling is a pressure behind my eyes. So I'm wondering like what that could have been for her. What that could have been for her. Or at least maybe, let me adjust my question. I'm going to ask her, how did she feel when she passed? And that'll let me know something else. Okay, I'm going to pull 3 cards just to get a beginning look. Okay, so I feel like when she was transitioning, she knew she was going to go with the 8 of Cups. The 9 of Cups is, to me, this preparedness, this readiness, like so I'm wondering if she was at old age when she was transitioning out. I feel like this might have been close to asleep, like in her sleep kind of session or passing, because with the Five of Pentacles, I think of her being maybe a little bit cold. Not completely though, because this doesn't support being like frozen or hypothermia or anything like that. This feels more like, oh, it's getting a little cold, I could really use a blanket on our way out. And I feel like there might have been some issue, or she had taken some meds. I don't think it was a suicide. I do feel like this was a natural passing, but I'm feeling like there was the fluid behind the, not fluid behind the eyes, but the pressure behind the eyes, and I don't know what these things are, so I don't know if it was like, what's the word? Not an aneurysm. Anyway, those are just the feelings that I'm getting, and I'm not a doctor, obviously. I do have a little bit of a medical background, so usually I can put together symptoms, but the feeling that I'm getting is strongly about the pressure behind the eyes. So I don't know, I want to know if, like, is that brain involvement, or if it's just, like, sinus involvement and something going on there. Anyway, head something, but this to me feels like mostly appropriate passing older age. Healthy, normal. Well, healthy-ish, normal, nothing, nothing not vicarious, nothing precarious this way goes. But anywho, oh my goodness, so I really enjoyed being able to do this reading and kind of like introduce myself to her. She feels like a private lady, like she wasn't super chatty or super talkative, and I wasn't really talking to her, but the information that I was getting wasn't super chatty or super talkative, and it was just subtle, it was light, it was like a whisper, but I do feel like this perpetual heart of gold. And Miss Molly, it was so nice to introduce myself to you. Aww. And something else that I just got off of the image was in relation to like Sunday school and children. So that was like another thing I feel like there was, especially little girls, something about little girls and children. So I always wish that I could verify these stories with maybe a member of their ancestry or their family. But of course, I don't think I'll ever run into somebody who knows this person. If you happen to, please send them my way. I would love to talk with them. I love talking to people as they remember their ancestors, remember their stories that their ancestors told them about these people. But alright, well thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight as I perform this post-mortem reading on Miss Molly. It was so nice to introduce you to her and her to you. And if you have any questions on this kind of reading, let me know in the comments. I love having conversations about this particular topic. It's so much fun. And if you would like to have a reading done yourself, please feel free to reach out to me directly and we can schedule that time. All right, you all, take care. Mwah.